In October 19, English Channel. A woman was swimming in the sea near the freezing point, swam desperately. After more than 10 hours, her lips had turned purple and her limbs had lost sensation. There were reporters and onlookers, and a man was waiting for a gamble that could destroy his company. On the woman's neck, wears a watch on her neck. The watch was not hidden in a waterproof box and was not protected in any way. He will go with her. The low temperature of sea and repeated violent impacts. In that era, most people didn't believe that watches were waterproof. Even in the eyes of many men, a watch was just a fragile female accessory. Truly reliable timing tool should be that heavy pocket watch. If the watch got wet, the man's years of hard work would be a joke. But if it could still work, the entire watch industry might change. The man who bet everything is called Hans Wilsdorf, and that watch is called Rolex Oyster Perpetual. Today, Rolex, in the world, one of the most recognizable watch brands. Crown, wealth, status. People almost forget what he originally wanted to solve. Not how to look expensive, but a very simple question: how to make a watch on the wrist to be trusted by people. What's even more incredible is the person who asked this question was almost an orphan who had lost everything. In 1991, Hans was born in a business family in Bavaria, Germany. His childhood was not rich, but it was stable. The family ran a hardware business. As long as nothing happened, he would probably follow in his father's footsteps. But accidents happened. When he was 12 years old, his mother died, and the next year, his father passed away. The 3 children became orphans overnight. His uncle sold the family business and sent him to a technical school for adults. This may be a rational arrangement, but for the young Hans, it seemed like the last thing his parents left him was also taken away. At school, he was an outsider. He was once rejected because of his background. He had no home to return to and no wealth waiting to be inherited. All he could control was himself. So he focused on math and languages. He learned English and French and gradually developed a nearly stubborn habit. He kept everything he owned and took responsibility for his life. Years later, he recalled that it was that early independent life that shaped his success. This is not a lighthearted inspirational summary. For Hans, reliability is never just a product parameter. When a teenager needed to rely on others the most, he lost his support. Everything he made in his life were precisely around the same word: reliable. At 19, Hans left Germany for Switzerland. His first important job was not related to watches, but as an apprentice in a pearl trading company there. He first understood one thing: a company doesn't have to make everything by itself. It can create great value as long as you know how to select, grade, package, and sell. Ordinary commodities can get a completely different price. This was Hans' first business lesson. The product itself isn't, but how people understand the product is equally important. Soon after, he entered a watch company in La Chaux-de-Fonds, Switzerland. Every day, he wound hundreds of pocket watches to check if they were running accurately. This job was repetitive and boring, but allowed him to get close to the core secrets of watches: gears, escapements, and springs. And those right eyes, hard to notice, that can make time go faster or slower. Tiny errors. Later, he came to London to develop customers for a watch company. By now, he had learned 3 things: how the Swiss make watches, how the British buy watches, and how businessmen turn commodities into brands. There was only one company left. In 1905, 20-year-old Hans and his brother-in-law Alfred Davis, Wells Dweller and Davis Company. They sourced high-quality movements from Switzerland, assembled and sold in the UK. It was a good business, but Hans soon realized that if he just continued to sell pocket watches, he might make money, but it would never truly change the industry because he targeted something that wasn't taken seriously at the time: the watch. At the beginning of, men commonly used pocket watches. It was large, and the movement was more stable. To check the time, people took out their pocket watches, opened the cover, and then put it back. Wristwatches are different. It's smaller in size and more fragile, and it shakes with the arm constantly. Dust, sweat, and rain may all get into the case. It's not only easy to be inaccurate, but also easily damaged. So a watch is more regarded as a lady's jewelry. For a man, wearing a small watch on wrist, it may even be ridiculed. But what Hans saw was not how bad it was at that time, but how convenient it will be when a person is cycling, driving, or even on the battlefield. He will never spare a hand to take out a pocket watch. Time should appear the moment people lift their wrists. It sounds like a given because we have lived in the future that Hans saw, but at that time was a bet against common sense. How to keep a smaller movement more accurate. How to keep the constantly moving wrist from breaking. How to keep dust and water out of the gaps in the case. Hans did not invent attaching a watch to the wrist. What he really wanted to do was to turn a toy-like thing into a tool that everyone could rely on. So he looked for manufacturers in Europe. He continuously improved and sent the watch to be tested by an independent organization. Was awarded the Precision Certificate, Precision Practical Certificate. In 1914, a Rolex watch passed again the Advanced Precision Test of Kew Observatory. The watch first had evidence to tell the world, although I'm small, I could be as accurate as a pocket watch. Precision only solves half of the problem. The real dangerous enemy is still outside the case. In 1908, Hans began to look for a new name for the company. The name must be short and could be printed on a small dial, easy to pronounce, and be easy for people of different languages. It must also sound like a brand, not the surnames of the two partners. He tried many letter combinations and finally chose a word, relax. No one can be sure where the name came from. Hans later described that as if one day he was in a carriage in London and a spirit whispered the word into his ear quietly. The real brilliance is not how mysterious the word is, but that Hans had already realized. The company can belong to the founder, but the brand belongs to consumers' memories forever. Then the First World War broke out. The war made the practical value of watches more obvious. When soldiers coordinated their actions in complex environments, it was more convenient to look at the time than to take out a pocket watch. Second, the war brought Hans another crisis. Britain raised tariffs on imported watches. Hans, who was born in Germany and had a German surname, had to face hostility. The company moved its business focus to Switzerland and completely used the brand name Rolex. Many companies just want to survive in crisis. Hans further confirmed in the crisis. Watches will eventually replace to do this. It must. The most stubborn problem of the watch: water. Water is almost everywhere, as long as there is a gap in the case, bottom or cover. Moisture may enter the movement. What's more, watches need to be wound regularly. Every time you unscrew or pull the crown, it may destroy the seal. Hans once said that as long as the case is made tight enough, dust, sweat, water, and temperature changes, the accuracy of the watch can be guaranteed. After years of improvement, in 1926, Rolex launched the Oyster watch. Its bezel, the case back, and winding crown together form a sealed structure. Hans named it Oyster because he hoped that the watch be like a closed oyster. Separate the fragile interior from the outside. The technology was done, but the commercial problems had just begun. You can write waterproof 100 times in ads, but consumers still have reasons not to believe, because people at that time had seen too many watches that leaked for them. The so-called waterproof was likely just another sales pitch. What Hans needed was not a louder slogan, but a proof that no one could ignore. The opportunity came a year later. The story goes back to the start. In 1927, British swimmer Mercedes Gleitz was ready to challenge the English Channel. He had previously gained fame for crossing the channel. Facing the doubts from outside, he decided to go into the water again to prove himself. Hans found him and asked him to wear a Rolex Oyster Perpetual on his neck. It was an extremely smart and extremely dangerous. The smart part is everyone can understand this test. He doesn't need to explain the complex mechanical structure. A watch, soak in the cold sea water for 10 hours. Will it still work after that? This is something that everyone can understand. The danger is that the real world will not cooperate with the ad. Water temperature, impact, and salt, any of which can stop the watch from working. Glazes was underwater for an hour. An hour passed by, the seawater became colder. His physical strength was constantly after more than 10 hours due to severe hypothermia. He was pulled out of the sea. He failed to complete the challenge. From the result of the swim, he failed. Then when people checked the watch hanging around his neck, they found that it was still working. He didn't conquer the channel, but the watch came back alive. Hans immediately seized this opportunity. He placed a full-page advertisement in the Daily Mail, announcing to the public House Watch had passed the test of the English Channel. Then he asked the dealer to put the moving Rolex into a glass tank filled with water and whales. In the window, passers-by don't have to trust the salesperson. They only need to trust their own eyes. This is the real turning point of Rolex. Hans was selling not just a waterproof watch, but a piece of evidence that has been told repeatedly. He has been to places you dare not go, and came back safely. After a successful marketing campaign, we'll keep repeating a slogan repeatedly. What Hans does is constantly looking for new limits. Rolex turns the real world into a laboratory for products. Pilots take it into the sky. Racing drivers use it to challenge speed. Explorers take it to the mountains. Divers take it to the bottom of the sea. Every extreme challenge, it accomplishes three things at the same time: create news and accumulate brand reputation. This is the most valuable lesson from Rolex's marketing, but it didn't say I represent success first, but let the product appeared on the wrists of those successful people. In 1931, Rolex launched the oscillating automatic winding system. Every movement of the wrist can replenish energy for the watch, reducing manual winding. This means the crown can be opened less often, so the sealing of the Oyster case is more reliable. So far, the most crucial components of a modern watch were integrated: precise waterproof automatic winding. In 1945, Rolex launched the Datejust, the date display integrated into the watches. Precision automatic winding movement. In 1953, Submariner was launched. which brought the brand's reliable image to the deeper waters. These innovations were not isolated product features. They all answer a question that Hans asked when he was young: how to make a watch on the wrist to be trusted by people. Hans' life was not spared from loss due to his career success. In 1944, his wife, Florence, died. The next year, he founded a foundation named after himself and arranged the ownership of Rolex, arranged under the framework of the foundation. In 1960, Hans Wilsdorf passed away. He did not see in person the greatest challenges that watches faced later, and quartz watches. And finally, an even time doesn't need to be confirmed by a watch. Smartwatch, but Rolex survived because it was no longer selling the function of checking time. If only to know the time, a mobile phone is enough. People buy Rolex for a whole set of meaning accumulated over hundreds of years. Precision, reliability, adventure, and a symbol of my arrival there. This may be Hans' most important business legacy, a 12-year-old boy who lost his support and finally created a brand known for being reliable. He didn't invent time. He didn't invent the watch. He was just the one who saw the future earlier than others. He wore time on his wrist. He took one more step than others and made the world believe in him. In the English Channel in 1927, what was truly tested was never just a watch. What was tested was the promise made by a brand, and Rolex still enjoys the rewards of those dozen hours.